Thank you very much, Stefania Giannini, for this introductory keynote. I'd like to add, for those of you who are watching us remotely, that the link to the report is shared in the chat box. It is available as of now in English, but it will soon be also available in Spanish. Now, as you mentioned in your keynote presentation, COVID-19 has indeed disrupted educational systems throughout the world, affecting some 1.6 billion students throughout the world in more than 190 countries as school closed to mitigate the various COVID-19 outbreaks. But it has also served, of course, as an opportunity to build back equal opportunities and close gender gaps in digital access, skills, but also leadership. So why is it so important, and what role can technology truly play in advancing women and girls' careers? This is what we will talk about in the first roundtable. The Director of Youth Development at the Shilpa Sayura Foundation, to join us. She's joining us from Sri Lanka. She's actually the 2020 laureate of the UNESCO Prize for Girls and Women's Education. Hello and welcome to you. Thank you for being with us today.
Hello, and thank you for inviting me.
So perhaps could you tell us a little bit more about your own journey with digital education and how that actually brought you to then work for the Shilpa Sayura Foundation?
Yes. Shilpa Sayura Foundation actually has been innovating digital education in Sri Lanka for the past 15 years. When I was 12, I joined Shilpa Sayura project as a beneficiary. I also had a role to review and test the digital content they were producing for children and give them feedback. Since then, I've been involved in all the digital education projects of Shilpa Sayura Foundation. So I went from beneficiary to volunteer to coordinator and now youth director today. So about 4 years ago, we developed a special localized coding curriculum with support from Google Education. And while we were implementing that, we found there's gaps in girls' participation in especially technology education. So since then, we've had a special focus on girls' technology education through the Next Gen Girls in Technology program with support from Internet Society and APNIC Foundation. And that has been very successful in Sri Lanka in increasing the number of girls who are learning technology.
Now, precisely, how did the foundation actually change its approach to engage girls in tech during COVID-19?
So when COVID-19 struck, Next Gen Girls in Technology project was actually like halfway on progress. And all the schools in Sri Lanka was asked to close during one of our workshops. So while everyone panicked, we were actually able to move our entire program online within about 2 weeks. And that was because of our digital education experience. This gave us the opportunity to directly connect with children and parents. Earlier, we had to go through so many officers, principals, and teachers. We were able to continuously engage with children. The quality, impact, and the reach of the program improved greatly. And when COVID struck, one of the biggest challenges teachers and students had was transforming the classroom education model into digital. So we started training ICT teachers island-wide in delivering digital education, and they trained their school teachers. In the student program, the children we had were coming from different socioeconomic backgrounds and ages. Yet we delivered the same content, enabled peer-to-peer learning, and gave them a master challenge, which they can achieve in their personalized manner. Every student found the solutions to these challenges in their own time. Some took 2 months, while others took a year to complete it. So it's personalized education. In the online environment, learning was flexible. So for example, Suha, Yenuti, and Seyasna dropped out from the first batch, but then again, they joined in the 4th batch and completed the challenge. The openness and personalization motivated the girls. Another technique we used was getting the goal achieved students to help the next batch. So enabling peer-to-peer learning, and the girls had inspiration who are their own age. So our impact multiplied with other organizations using our content tools and models to conduct coding training. However, all these benefits were only available to teachers and children who had the connectivity. So we have to look into it in the future to like bring the rest of the children and teachers online so they can also have these benefits.
Now, you won last year's UNESCO Prize for Girls and Women's Education. What makes the Foundation's work so unique and so special?
Yes, so our foundation is built on empathy, and we implement our programs with research and innovation. So there is so many talented girls with high potential in Sri Lanka, but they don't have the opportunities to reach their highest potential. For example, we have a girl called Diatma. She thought computers are for boys, and then she went on to win the coding championship. We have Tasuni, Dihini, and Thanuli. Three girls from three different districts collaborated online to create a virtual travel lab. They were selected for the finals of TADHAC. Tharuli, Oneli, and Tevni from three different schools created an IoT solution that won a special recognition award at TADHAC. And TADHAC is one of the biggest hackathons in the country. All the girls I mentioned here were between the ages of 12 to 14, trained by Next Gen Girls in Technology. One thing all 7 of them have in common is that 1 year ago, they did not know what coding was. And there are many stories. So what makes us special is that Shilpa Sayura has been doing this for 15 years. With research, innovation, trial and error, we are improving every day. Shilpa Sayura believes that now there are quadruple bottom lines: society, economy, environment, and technology. So we dynamically adapt to changes in all those quadruple bottom lines. One thing we're really concerned about is the localizing of the learning to the country, as well as localizing it to the students. So they have an individual growth plan with content, training, and engagement with mentoring. That is what makes us special is not us alone. Actually, it's the stories of every child that we develop.
Poornima, thank you very much indeed for that. I'm going to turn to Stefania Giannini. Thank you once again for being with us. We've been hearing these 3 women tell us about all the challenges that they've faced during this COVID-19 crisis. I heard solidarity, helping one another, bringing all parties together. So it is about digital transformation, but it is also about core values. What would you say would be the main takeaways of this first roundtable for you?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I think it's a very inspiring discussion today. We heard from all these participants and Mary and Poornima from different perspectives, their own engagement to make first gender equality a clear pillar of their own experience in learning, in teaching, in education as a whole. And we also heard more or less the same challenges. It's about infrastructures, it's about devices. I mean, Mary at the first told us that girls in her community don't have the same tools that boys have. I also mentioned presenting and launching the report from UNESCO that in some countries, half than 50% of girls can have a mobile, and almost 95% of boys do have. So this means that we have to take an holistic approach to gender equality in education, and this is my first takeaway. We know at UNESCO very well, we start from monitoring legal frameworks. I think everything is starting with law. If you don't have a gender responsive education frameworks as well as policy, you cannot implement an action plan. Second dimension is about translating these principles in concrete actions. It's about, for instance, in this crisis, providing devices as much as possible to entire community of learners, but also focusing on the gender dimension, as we know that the girls have been already behind before the COVID-19. And third dimension, maybe the most difficult one, is about, fighting against cultural stereotypes. As I mentioned at the very beginning, let me recall a little bit, UNESCO launched this interesting report 2 years ago because before the COVID-19, with a very interesting title, I blush if I could, and it was about the stereotypes in AI, in artificial intelligence, and what we stigmatized there. We saw that all the technical assistants like Alexa were talking to us with this very women feminine voice in order to frame the role in a women in a gender biased way. And the role of UNESCO has been very much concrete. Now, companies like Apple this year said, well, look, stop the process. Now you can choose different kind of voices. So these three layers can really help us to make the step forwards we need.
And to trigger change. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It is indeed about algorithmic bias as well for those making those devices, but also about changing mentalities also within households. I'd like to go back to our panel and perhaps give the opportunity to all of our panelists, one after the other, to be able to give us their last word. Let's start with Mary Nyaseku. We're coming back to you. What would be your last message for those who are watching us today?
My last message, the digital divide is as real as it can be. I would appeal our government, organization, and other bodies to assist in making sure opportunities to learn are evenly distributed. This is especially for slum schools, where parents struggle to afford basic needs, and laptops, internet access are luxuries. We too need those skills to compete globally. Thank you to Technovation, I was able to learn how to develop an app and to do pitch. So we need such opportunities too.
Well, thank you very much for your message, Mary. Je me tourne vers vous, Houraï Mamadou.
Now I'll turn to you, Houraï Mamadou Anne, for your last remarks. What do you have to say to those watching us today? I'm not sure if you can hear us. Can you hear us, Houraï? Your microphone seems to be muted. In the meantime,
for your last word, is there a message in particular you want to send to people who are watching us today?
Yes. So the post-COVID-19 society will be actually driven by technology. And like you mentioned, now we are well aware that there is a huge gender gap in the technology sector. So my suggestion is to increase access to technology, digital skills development, providing localized, safe, and relevant learning online for girls, right? For girls. And that's the need. But we have to rethink the curriculum, delivery, and reach. In my experience, girls equally perform in technology careers, sometimes better. So we have to focus on, I think, curriculum, delivery, and reach to get a more gender equal technology sector and get more girls learning technology and working with technology.
Poornima, thank you very much. Let's now try to turn back to Houraï Mamadou Anne. Can you hear me now? I don't know if the connection is working.
Je vous entends, j'espère que
yes, I can hear you. I hope you can hear me too. Yes, we can hear you. My microphone seems to be developing a life of its own. Apologies. I would say to conclude that it's essential that we focus on technical and technological aspects, including access to resources, including devices, connectivity, access to content. All of these are major issues, particularly in the African context. We were very pleased with the results of the study that we carried out in 5 countries, so much so that we've decided to develop a holistic approach to be implemented in 10 African countries. And the idea behind this is really to work in several different directions. For example, in terms of the professional development of teachers, but also sociological and leadership issues. These are issues that were highlighted in our study. And these are ways of improving the legitimacy of teachers to participate in the system and to provide young girls with the opportunity to be actively involved in their education. During the Gender Equality Forum, we held discussions with those involved in this, and we'll continue to do this in order to promote professional development and female leadership among female teachers, including through the establishment of an ecosystem which will bring together political parties and media in a trans-partisan approach in order to develop a support network for teachers and women leaders. Over the next 2 years, with the support of the Ministry for Europe and Foreign Affairs, we'll be rolling out this program, and we're very impatient to see the results of this initiative. Thank you very much, Houraï Mamadou, for answering our questions.
Panelists for this fascinating conversation and for all of your input about your personal experience linked to this problem. Now, after hearing from fascinating women throughout the world and their on-the-ground invaluable experiences, this next panel will focus more on efforts and good practice with inputs also from Plan International France and the French Ministry for Europe and Foreign Affairs. So how can we overcome the gender digital divide and increase girls' digital literacy, how to give them the necessary digital skills to enable them to then carry out this digital revolution happening throughout the world. Those are some of the questions we'll be asking in the next panel. We'll also touch on how to create safe digital spaces.